just want to thank you because you're very, very special people. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you. And I just want to thank you because you're very, very special people. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in
They
Congress
call her
they say was here a long time ago.
Pocahontas.
They call her Pocahontas. But you know what?
You know, I talk to all these people who they're always in such a bad mood. They're so angry about everything, right? They can never laugh.
You were here long before any of us were here.
The type of people who can never have a good time. You know what I'm talking about?
Congress who they say
and I'm telling them here, they're like, well, you have a very optimistic attitude about things, Austin. I'm like, yeah, you know, there's gold out there if you can find it. Isn't there? This is America.
Very, very special people.
This is America, damn it.
You were here long before any of us were here.
Quiet down, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Wake Up America. I'm Austin Petersen. I'm going to find a silver lining in every cloud. I don't wear rose-colored glasses. I think I can see a little bit of the good in everyone. We've got a big show today. The political class just got slapped in the face, and I don't think most people even really understand why a socialist won. Not because people really love socialism, but because a whole generation looked at their economy, their rent, their grocery bill, and said, this isn't working. So Zohran Mamdani walks in, he's smooth, he's confident, he's polished, he's got that smile, that really wide kind of like Joker. And he says, don't fix the problems, burn it down. Blame the landlords, blame the corporations, blame the rich. And boom, instant coalition, especially young voters, especially young women. But if you think this stops in New York City, you're not paying attention. This is the warning shot. This is where the next election is going. So today we're breaking it down, the psychology, the economics, hard numbers. Camelia is going to talk to us this morning at 7:30, a little bit earlier than normal, to explain how this coalition is forming and why the old political playbook is out the door. It's not about left versus right. It's about a system that people don't trust anymore. The government is told we need more power and that they need more power. But they can't even run the basics. The airports are a mess. The DHS is scrambling, lines out the door, shoes off, belts off, laptop out, and somehow it still doesn't work. It's the perfect symbol of modern government. Maximum control, minimum competence. So we'll get into that. Senator Raphael Warnock out here once again reminding us that the people running this country live in a completely different reality than we do. While the cost of living keeps going up, we're going to break that down this morning. And then later we'll pivot because, like I said, the silver linings in the clouds. Good morning, Kermode, Cecilia Quest. I'm going to make you feel better today. We're going to talk about Chuck Norris. Yes, sir. What he represents, strength, discipline, backbone, the kind of American spirit that people are clearly hungry for again. Stephanie and I, we got our tickets for the new movie Young Washington coming out on the 4th of July. I think we've shown the trailer on here. It's a new movie from Angel Studios. I couldn't resist, guys, and I don't know if I should tell you this because it's like, I don't want you guys to steal it from me, but maybe, you know what? You watch the Wake Up America show. You guys probably give me a lot of money. So here's the secret. Angel Studios has a giveaway going on right now where if you buy your tickets to Young Washington on their website early, they've got a contest where they're doing a giveaway for a colonial era, a real Revolutionary War flintlock rifle. And I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, I must have it. You know me and my flintlocks and how I feel about them, but this one is no replica. This would be a real 1776 colonial musket. So when I saw that they were putting your name in for a giveaway for that, if you get your tickets for Young Washington, boy, oh boy, get the gun, Martha. I was ready to rock. So we'll talk about Chuck Norris this morning. We're going to talk about masculinity, and that'll be the last half of the show. Masculinity has many different forms, and it comes in many different flavors. I don't know. I've never tasted a man. So you'll have to fill us in, ladies and gents who bat for the other team. All right. Well, it's 4 a.m. at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the world's busiest airport. And if you were there this weekend, congratulations, because you experienced something truly historic. Not the good kind of historic. Look at this. Look at these lines. So if you are currently getting ready to go and get on an airplane, or you have a loved one who's getting on an airplane today, pray for them, okay? Pray for the ones you love. I'm not a praying man, but pray for the ones you love if they've got to get on an airplane today. The security line so long, it physically left the security area. It was flooded back through the terminal, way past gate agents, past the Hudson News, all the way back to the baggage claim atrium. And some poor airline employees walking the length of it with a megaphone telling people arrive 4 or 5 hours before the flights. 4 to 5 hours. You heard that right. If your flight leaves at noon, Delta would like you at the airport at 7 a.m. Bring a sleeping bag, bring a podcast, bring your will to live. The airport has also, in a stunning act of bureaucratic self-awareness, quietly stopped posting wait times on its own website because apparently if you do not publish the number does not exist. This is the same logic the Democratic Party has been applying lately to its poll numbers. Did you pay attention to the show yesterday? It's bad. They're less popular than ICE, which is handy. Now, somewhere in this glorious monument to government dysfunction, there's a TSA agent, right? The man relocated to Atlanta to take this job. Real guy, uprooted his entire life. This week, he's standing at a checkpoint he cannot afford to drive to, asking his landlord for an extension on rent and his car lender for an extension on his payment because he has not seen a full paycheck in 5 weeks. He spoke to CNN without his name because he's still showing up, which alone should win him some kind of award. And when they asked him how he was holding up, he said, "At what point does the dam break for so many of us?" He's not alone. The union leader representing TSA workers in Atlanta told CNN his members are dealing with, this is a direct quote, eviction notices, vehicle repossessions, empty refrigerators, and overdrawn bank accounts. And they're still showing up. They're still screening bags. These people are essentially working as volunteers at this point, which is funny because the left usually loves volunteers right up until it's their policy causing the volunteering. And here's where the comedy stops. John Pistole, the former administrator of the TSA, he's the man who used to run the whole operation. He went out on TV and said, from the standpoint of a suicide bomber or a shooter who wants to go in and just shoot up this area, the airport, where people are in these long queues, it's a double problem. Excuse me? Could you maybe not say that on national television? You know we're all thinking it. Thousands of people just packed together, standing still, unscreened. Well, I hope nobody blows up this giant target. I hope no one blows you all up. I'll be flying private, you know? Boo, boo, what an effing moron. Exactly, Drew Van Runkle. Thank you. I'm glad that you guys see it my way. So see it my way, your way, right away at Burger King now. Now, click the like button, guys, if you haven't already. Don't forget, very important, très importante. Click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. Come back and join us. This is a fun place to be. It's a safe space for people who love liberty and guns. The Wake Up America show is brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you, but that might not be always and forever. We got the lead on some big opportunities coming down the pike for the For Liberty Network. Have you heard of the For Liberty Network? The For Liberty Network is a man in a dream. Me, Brad, Colton, Steffi, Daniela, Mylene, And everybody if you're a 1776er, drop an American flag down in the chat. Camellia Peterson's a 1776er, and she is going to be joining us live at 7:30 this morning on the Wake Up America show. So Pistole says that the officers watching them, these crowds right here, let me pull it back up. They're probably distracted, they said, worrying about their overdrawn accounts while trying to spot what he called that putative terrorist who might be trying to do something to exploit what they see as a vulnerability. So the former head of the TSA is on national television calling these lines a soft target. And they are a soft target because Senate Democrats decided to weaponize the paychecks of 50,000 airport workers in a political grudge match over immigration enforcement. Now, this gets worse, okay? This is only the setup to everything that follows today. It's only going to get more unbelievable from here. So here's how we got here. Every disaster has an origin story, and this one starts in Minneapolis because, of course it does. It's 2026, and every terrible bad thing, every bad piece of news that comes out of the United States these days is coming out of Minneapolis. January 7, 2026, ICE agent shot and killed a woman, Renee Good. We remember this near an immigration enforcement operation. January 24th, a 37-year-old VA nurse named Alex Preddy was shot and killed by federal agents during another operation in the same city. Both on video, both centers of national controversy. The administration called them domestic terrorists. Todd Blanche went on Meet the Press and said, there's nothing wrong with anybody lawfully carrying firearms, the deputy attorney general. So within 72 hours, the administration had called someone a domestic terrorist and then confirmed he's lawfully armed. So it's great messaging all around. The DHS bill is inadequate, they say, to rein in abuses of ICE, et cetera. And here you have these videos of these
8.2 million people registered to vote in
these debates. Hold on. We're going to get to Raphael Warnock in just a minute. So to have a sense of humor, right, about this, Democrats, they shut down DHS to protest ICE. The TSA collapses because, shockingly, people need money to buy food. Airports across the country have been turned into human parking lots during the single busiest travel stretch of the year. And so now we're deploying ICE agents to the airports, which the TSA can no longer staff because Democrats defunded TSA. Democrats pulled the thread that was holding the airports together. The airports unravel. And now the thing that is ripping that is pulling the thread, the thing that is like making the Democrats so mad is now saving the airports. This is a script. If this was a movie premise and you wrote this as a script, nobody would buy your script. They would say that this was too convenient. But here we are. Tom Homan explains the mission. Says we're there helping the TSA do their job in areas that don't need their specialized expertise, such as screening through the x-ray machine. Yeah, good idea, right? You've got these giant you're calling them soft targets on air. If you've got, soldiers or you've got federal police officers, then have them at least standing guard around Americans, keeping an eye out for anybody who looks suspicious. And what do I mean when I say I look suspicious? I think you know what I mean. I think suspicious is a pretty damn obvious thing. And we need to stop pretending like it's not. And I'm tired of pretending like it's not. Raphael Warlock says, Quest Fanning. Yes, exactly. So ICE is doing crowd control. And now finally, guys, let's get to the man of the hour. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia. A little background on the senator in case you're unfamiliar. Raphael Warnock represents the great state of Georgia. His home airport, of course, is Hartsfield-Jackson. That's the airport with the 5-hour lines. So his constituents are literally the people in those lines right now. And Senator Warnock's response to all of this was to go on TV and say, I don't know why the Republicans insist on holding federal workers hostage, holding TSA workers hostage so they can have an unaccountable paramilitary force on our streets. It's unconscionable. Raphael Warnock does not know why there are 5-hour lines at the airport, in his state, in his district. The man whose vote helped cause the 5-hour lines at the airport in the state cannot figure out why there are 5-hour lines. Senator, we will help you for that, and we're going to do it by talking about you for a few minutes. So consider this a public service to the people of the United States.
8.2 million people registered to vote in Georgia. The Republican Secretary of State found 20 instances of non-citizens who were registered, and only 9 had ever attempted to vote. And the majority did so before 2012. This is a solution in search of a problem that does not exist. 8.2 million people registered to vote in Georgia.
Wait.
The Republican Secretary of State found 20 instances of non-citizens who were registered, and only 9 had ever attempted to vote.
So
And the
you just admitted that it does happen, but then you say that it doesn't even. I don't speak Democrat. So Raphael Warnock, he's a United States senator. He's a senior pastor, author, a man who has turned the art of hypocrisy into something approaching a doctoral thesis. Let's start with a quote that should follow this man for the rest of his career. In 2020, in the campaign debate, Warnock looks into the camera and says, this is a direct quote, "I just think you shouldn't use the people's seat to enrich yourself. You ought to use the people's seat to represent the people." Oh, beautiful. Principled, of course. We've heard this before. 1 year later, his financial disclosure showed he made $532,000, up from $221,000 the year before he was elected. His income more than doubled in his first year in the Senate. So the man who told you not to use the people's seat to enrich yourself, used the people's seat to enrich himself at a rate that would make a hedge fund manager jealous. Now, how did he pull this off? Well, I'm glad you asked. Thank you. Well, Senate rules limit outside income to $29,000 a year. Warnock collected $120,000 from Ebenezer Baptist Church by classifying $89,000 of it as personal parsonage allowance. That's a real thing. Wouldn't want to put out the pastor in the parsonage. Now, that is a tax-free housing benefit, $7,400 a month. What is your monthly mortgage, or what's your monthly rent payment? Personal parsonage. What a parsonage. $7,400 a month. $7,400 a month for housing at his $1 million home in Atlanta. So the Senate Ethics Committee signed off on all of it because, of course, they did. Now, here's the part that would make your head explode if we're not already busy processing 5-hour TSA lines. While Warnock was collecting $7,400 a month in tax-free housing money from Ebenezer Baptist Church, that same church was moving to evict tenants from its low-income apartment buildings in downtown Atlanta. Guys, bubby, baby. My bubby made a kishka. So they're kicking out these tenants, the $7,000 parsonage fee to pay for Raphael Warnock's $7,000 a month mansion while kicking out all the low income tenants. That's the church. This is what we give these people these tax breaks for their religions. I tell you, I gotta start a religion, man. Don't you think I would be a good cult leader? Yeah, man. It's the cult of the founding fathers, man. Speaking of the cult of the founding fathers, are you guys unlocking the bonus content over there? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Huh? Have you guys went to forlibertyshop.com yet and checked out all the new merch? Stephanie's working her booty off, guys. You got to check out all the cool... Dude, we love America so much. I don't want to curse, but if I did, I would put a GD in there. We love the country so much that we have made the 250 Years of Liberty merch a whole collection of beautiful, patriotic merch. Now, let me tell you something. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, you are going to see designs that you will find nowhere else. Look at this beautiful Boston Tea Party mug. Now, I have a funny story to tell you, and I hope that you will roast Stephanie about it, because we were having a good laugh, a good yuck yesterday at Steffi's expense. But Stephanie was like, why is it that every time I go and I look at these pictures of the Boston Tea Party, why is it that they have feathers, that they're wearing feathers in it? And I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? And she goes, no, why are they all like dressed up like Native Americans? She's like, I think this was some kind of mistake. And I go, no, Stephanie, the colonists dressed up like Native Americans when they did the Boston Tea Party. They were doing war whoops. It was this whole thing. It was like the Boston Tea Party, Stephanie, for the love of God. She's like, oh, I didn't know that they did that. I'm like, Stephanie, come on. She knew better than that. No, I'm just teasing. But Stephanie is like, she knows a lot about, especially you ask her a question about Thomas Jefferson, she's going to know it all. So visit forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. I love my wife so much that we're hosting a patriotic tour this year to Boston, and you can still join us. When you make purchases during the live show on the Wake Up America show during this stream, that goes to help unlock the bonus content. And because we love America so stinking much, we're also producing a series of mini documentaries that are unlockables. And if we raise $100 on the show, which we've raised 30 so far, then those unlockables are a Lego mini documentary. Today's is a special one. We're doing biopics of heroes of the American Revolution. So visit forlibertyshop.com. If the 250th anniversary of the United States not your deal, then maybe you'll like some of our other new products. I love this new one that she made, Ungovernable, but will accept treats. Yes, that's a good one. So check out, of course, all the latest product drops when you go to forlibertyshop.com. If you're a fan of if you're a chicken lover, then check out the Don't Tread on My Coop. Only available at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. If this isn't a cult, then why did I? Never mind. Thanks, guys. Washington Free Beacon reported one tenant who was facing eviction from Raphael Warnock's church was falling behind on rent by $28.55. $28.55, and they're kicking him out. Senator Warnock's church was trying to put somebody on the street for $28.55, while Warnock was cashing a $7,400 tax-free monthly housing check from that same church. Hallelujah. Must be nice working in the service of the Lord. The Lord does blesseth certain people. Oh, there will come a payday, come a payday, come a payday. Okay, ladies, that's enough. Calm down. So the senator, of course, preaches compassion for the poor on Sundays and then reviews the eviction notices on Tuesdays. Oh, the diligent. We shall pray for them. It's a free market. But wait, there's more. Warnock's ex-wife, and look, we report allegations as allegations on this show. These are her claims. She told police in a 2011 dispute that he left her financially strapped by refusing to cover child care costs, despite his substantial increase in income. He's a great actor, she says. He's phenomenal at putting on a good show. Senator, your ex-wife and your voting record have arrived at the same conclusion from completely different directions. Here she is.
Get to the airport, I gotta go. Close the door. And I was like, please. And he's like, well, I close the door, I'm leaving. And I was like, just hear me out. If your mom died and I had the kids, wouldn't you want me to let them go with you to the funeral? And he just starts backing the car up. And he wasn't going fast. Like, I'm not bleeding, but I just can't believe he would run me over.
You think it was intentional?
He saw me standing right there. I wasn't far. I was touching my daughter in the car seat.
So you...
He knew.
He told
Trust
me.
Me, he knew.
He knew that he ran over your foot?
This man's running for United States Senate, and all he cares about right now is his reputation. I work at the mayor's office, and this is a big problem.
Okay.
I've been trying to be very quiet about the way that he is for the sake of my kids and his reputation. He's the pastor at Ebenezer. I have not involved people. I told the mayor we were getting a divorce simply because I report to one level beneath her and I needed her to know in advance, but I've tried to keep the way that he acts under wraps for a long time, and today he crossed the line. So that is what is going on here, and he's a great actor. He is phenomenal at putting on a really good show.
Yep.
And all
There
of a
you
sudden
go.
she's screaming that I ran over her foot. I don't believe it.
You don't.
But I don't, certainly that was not my intent.
Intent, yeah. Okay.
Not my
Certainly not.
intent. These are the people that are rich. These are the people running the show. That man conducts foreign policy. This idiot. I was talking to somebody yesterday asking for support for the For Liberty Network, and I said, listen, evil wins when good men do nothing. It is time for good men and women to stand up and to be heard. It's time for us to stand up and fight. The price of not being involved is being ruled by your inferiors. If you are not supporting the For Liberty Network, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to fight for liberty in such a small way. It's not much. For $17.76 a month, you can sponsor a future U.S. Senator. No, just kidding. The Democratic Party's tried everything to win back voters. New messaging, new faces, new policies, and now apparently new jawlines. The Dems apparently want hotter candidates. And
The technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. Just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approve. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Washington. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Glad and thankful to have you here. A piece that was published yesterday in the Bulwark. It's not exactly a right-wing outlet. It's titled, and I'm not making this up, Thirst Traps Over Think Tanks. Dems want hotter candidates on the ballot. The actual argument from actual Democratic strategists is that the party's problem is not its policies, not its messaging, not its complete inability to connect with working Americans. The problem is their candidates are not hot enough. Former Biden White House press office chief of staff is on record calling this a foundational brunch time conversation. So among the DC Democratic class, there's sadly some peer-reviewed science behind it. Joining me now, someone who thinks deeply about politics, culture, and all the uncomfortable places they intersect. Camelia Petersen, welcome to the Wake Up America show. And you're streaming live from the Capitol, which is kind of Hollywood for ugly people at this point. Aren't you looking forward to some actual hot people walking around, Camelia, in government?
I mean, look, we all know that, intellectually, the bar can be very low, right? But we do know that to get elected, it really helps if you have the it factor. And one of those it factors.
It's so true. It's so true. I probably should have been working out a lot harder in 2018 because I just remember all the high school girls fawning over my competitor, Josh Hawley. They thought he was so hot, so dreamy.
So, I mean, why do you think that Valentina Gomez got 10% in that? How does she even get 10% in that Texas race?
Because guys want to do her. Which, hey, listen, people are going to be like, Austin, haha, what a stupid topic. But it's not me. Literally, this is what the Democrats are discussing right now. And in Georgetown, they're cooking it up in the labs. And what we talk about here on the Wake Up America show, Camelia, you will frequently find a week or 2 weeks later in the mainstream press. So don't be surprised when Fox and Friends has a video that has 2 or 3 million views or something like that, talking about this exact subject. So it matters because people do vote with their face. I mean, it's kind of like the old Richard Nixon versus JFK thing. Everybody knows that young, especially women, voters like to see a candidate that's hot.
I mean, it's true. And here's the thing, this really dovetails with a Politico article that just came out yesterday, I believe, or the day before, that talks about why in a time when Democrats should have the easy edge, they are struggling, and it's they're not being able to capitalize on the angst their party is feeling about the current administration and all of these. There's lots of things they have to capitalize on, but they're not able to, and they're trying to figure out why that is. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for that. I think they have gone so far progressive that, they've backed policies that even their own, party has not really been able to support as far as the mainstream part of their party. But yeah, so I think that this goes to show too that they're looking at all of the options because they need everything they can get.
Democrats are at brunches today. They're going to be talking not about the TSA shutdown. I mean, I think it was 4. You have to be 4 or 5 hours ahead of time to show up to a flight. Camelia, you don't have any flights planned in the next few days or anything, do you?
Not in the next few days. I do in a couple of weeks. So let's hope it's taken care of by then.
Yeah, well, don't get your hopes up. Well, you were listening to Raphael Warnock, and they don't seem to be interested in making any kind of a deal. So do you think everybody's lost the plot?
It feels like it. I tell you what, so here's the thing, I've seen the stuff going by in the last few days too. I mean, the Democrats are refusing to give in, and you have the president saying that he's, not willing to even accept the negotiation or the offer that Democrats are making or even entertain it because basically he wants everybody to feel the pain. I mean, it's this constant back and forth of own the other side, and we're paying. Yeah.
So this article that I was reading, it cites this Berkeley professor who correlated that appearance strongly influences voters. And the science on this is actually pretty robust. So is this why libertarians have never won? And is it because we need hot libertarians? Is that what it is?
Maybe so. I think I probably told you before that one of the best things I ever heard at a convention with lots of young libertarian people was when Tom Woods got up there and everybody thought he was going to talk about COVID or something, but instead he told all of the young libertarian men that they needed to take a shower, dress nice,
Yes.
and how to write a properly prepared speech. And like, I was just over there cheering, you know?
Well, like, look at this on the national scene. So this conversation with Joe, would anybody be taking Joe Kent seriously if he was an old fat slob? Don't you think that the reason why people are listening to him, even though he's possibly a leaker, that he may have allegedly leaked national like information that was given to him to Candace Owens? Do you think anybody would be listening to Joe Kent or think he was anything special if he wasn't kind of hot?
So I'm a little conflicted about this because the first thing that popped into my mind when you described that was Steve Bannon.
Well, you know, he's like the Harvey Weinstein, I guess you might say, of the conservative movement, where once you're powerful enough, you can look like a toad.
Maybe that's it.
And he's not running for office.
Yeah, no, I do think that the aesthetics of things helps enormously in carrying your message, which is, you know, why, you know, how you dress, how you present yourself. I mean, you know, whatever your looks are, you know, your natural God-given looks, like in spite of those, how you present yourself otherwise matters.
No, it really does matter. It changes so much. I mean, I would say that my posture alone was one of the reasons why I was considered a more credible candidate when I ran for president, because I remember specifically many times being on stage or sitting at tables especially, and all these other people who were running for president of the United States were slouching back in their chairs.
Yes.
And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, do you not care? You're showing disrespect for the audience to some extent by not engaging with them. But this is when I kind of, you know, started to suspect, you know, the jig is up. You know, if somebody isn't serious enough to sit up straight and look you in the eyes and have a real conversation with you, they're not serious enough to lead or to take to go and take point. It's kind of like,
right.
I have this guy I know who he is sort of a community leader in like some of the, I'll have to be careful about how I say this, but in some of the various civic organizations, they have like a leadership role. And when I say a leadership role, it's kind of like on paper. And they were talking to me a little bit about some of their skills. And I was like, I wouldn't trust you to go into I would not follow you into anywhere. I would not go to the lake. I wouldn't trust you to take me to the Lake of the Ozarks because I would be afraid that you would get us drowned out there in the middle of the lake. But these are our people who are in charge. Is a lot of these people, they don't know their, as we say in the impolite school in Missouri, they'll say they don't know their asshole from their elbow.
Yeah, I mean, it is the curse of the confidence over the incompetence, right?
So here's the thing. So there's this kind of tension, right? Female Democratic candidates are a part of this conversation. AOC gets mentioned. Right-wingers, they simp for her. They lust for the Latina, Camellia. But not a single operative is going to go out on CNN today, Camellia, and say that the women need to be hotter if they want to win. So...
Well, I don't know. This is the new CNN. They might get there.
Don't dodge my point, Camellia. What a great topic for you and Aaron Clary and I to discuss soon in Las Vegas together. But why won't the Democrats say that maybe the women need to, brush up their appearance, maybe look a little bit like you? Camellia, you look so nice and presentable.
Thank you. I try.
Maybe we need these schleppy women walking around.
So it's really fascinating because I think that we've been seeing this pushback against the feminist movement, I think, over the last several years, and it's been slow. However, I honestly think that the Democrats are starting to catch up with this. They're starting to realize that this, whatever wave feminism that we're on, where, you're screeching and you're dyeing your hair whatever colors and and how you present yourself doesn't seem to matter, like that's not working. And so I see little things here and there that make me think that they're all of a sudden realizing that maybe that was a mistake. And they're probably not going to say those words out loud, but inside they are. When they're looking at things like that, they're thinking those things.
There might have been a little bit of cultural cachet that was lost between when the Republicans won the majority in the election there in 2024. But there's kind of a coolness gap, right? In the guy in office, conservatives got 3 baby mamas. The president got 3 baby mamas, right? There's a kind of a crude, there's something there under the crudeness, right? Is there a cultural coolness gap between the parties, would you say?
I mean, I think it used to be that the Democrats were perceived as more culturally cool, right? You know what I'm saying? But I think Republicans are trying to catch up to that. And we've talked about this problem for a long time, that Republicans or conservatives have always fallen behind in the culture issues and, being on the front line of cultural advancements and new things and art and music. And I think that there is an acknowledgement of that, and they're trying that now. If we're saying culturally, I cannot say this word this morning. If we're saying that it's cool to have 3 baby mamas, I think that's the part of the liberalism that conservatives have always said that's not good, right?
Now, Gavin Newsom was quoted in this piece as being embarrassingly handsome. Your thoughts?
I mean, Gavin's pretty nice looking. Here's the thing, though. This is I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think that's a very traditional, it's a very normal kind of attractiveness, which doesn't necessarily work for me. I like something that's a little more unique, I guess. But yes, by traditional normative standards, he is an attractive man.
Camelia, my audience, it skews a little bit older, so they might not know what looks maxing is. Do you?
Oh gosh.
Do you know what looks maxing is, Camelia?
I mean, it's kind of literally what it says. It's basically it's men being women when it comes to taking care of their looks. I mean, it is women have had the monopoly on doing all of the skincare things and to look younger and with their hair and, getting Botox and fillers and all this kind of stuff. And you would never hear of a man doing those kind of things. But now men do, and it's looks maxing.
Looks maxing. And yes, that is a real person and a real quote. So clavicular.
Oh, God.
You ever heard of a clavicular?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know who clavicular is. Clavicular said he would vote for Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance because Newsom is a, quote, 6'3" Chad. So do you think that Americans would agree with clavicular? Would they vote for Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance because Newsom is embarrassingly handsome?
I don't know. And I don't know that we've necessarily always seen this play out historically as being true. I do think it's a contributing factor, but I also do believe that when it comes down to the wire, that people who are actually voting and are politically involved and not just commenting on the sidelines and then they don't actually show up on election day, I don't think that those people are going to ultimately make that their number one criteria, right? I think if there's if there's not a lot of difference between two candidates, that they're probably going to lean towards the more aesthetically pleasing candidate, the one who presents themselves better and all those kind of things. But I don't know that it's the major difference between them.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to my good friend, Camelia Petersen. And no, that's not her home. That is the Capitol in Jefferson City, Missouri.
I need Kathy Joe to come decorate my home like this, though.
I love that Winston Churchill image that you have over there above your head. That's beautiful. Kathy,
she probably. Yeah. I was going to say she probably created that. She's an artist, so she's
Camelia, I want to be generous to my fellow Missourians, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt in so many ways, as often as I can. But when I get a little impatient when I see people in Southwest Missouri, your region of the state, forming what they call conservative groups to resist the passage of the abolition of Missouri's income tax. So you being more patient than I, and you being more tolerant than I'll let you set the tone for this discussion so that I don't just instantly go savage pit bull with and start mauling people's jugulars. Please tell us why our fellow Missourians, blessed be they and their families, why we need to abolish the income tax in Missouri.
I mean, it is baffling, and I will tell you, I've done a whole lot of start to type something. Nope, don't engage, don't do it, not going to do it, bite my tongue.
Dripping with venom. It's like hissing acid, burning a hole through the table, the acid coming off of my teeth right now. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's horseshoe theory come to life again. And it's baffling because we see this on a few issues lately. And I think we're kind of seeing this, at the national level. It's not just in Missouri. I think we're seeing this in other places too, where you have this contingent of the right that especially on some issues, and I don't know if it's just contrarianism, if they have to be different, in some way, or you have to always resist or push back against something. And so when you have
if the governor wants to do it, it must be bad because
I know, right. I mean, so it's just they're mad, perpetually, professionally mad people all the time. They have to do something to be mad about. And so, they've found a way to object to eliminating the income tax, which is being done in the most cautious, reasonable way possible while still not taking, decades to do it. And they're always going to find something. And it's just been baffling to me because there's so many people that call themselves conservatives, but they are literally now going against the most conservative economic principles of basing your economy on a consumption tax as opposed to an income tax. Which is we've known for many, many, many years that the income tax is the most damaging tax you can do to an economic system, and you're
literally disincentivizing people from making income. And you're taxing their consumption, which when you tax consumption, it's a regressive tax. I get it, absolutely, but it's also to some extent, not fully, but to some extent voluntary in that. You have to earn a living, but you don't have to buy shit, right? You have to buy some shit, but you don't have to buy lots and tons and tons and tons of shit necessarily, okay? Now, go ahead.
Here's the thing, at least in Missouri, we've given, our system actually probably favors the wealthy right now because wealthy people are more equipped to find all of the loopholes in the income tax system
wealthy
and to get all of the credit.
They don't pay those taxes.
They're not having to pay sales tax on services right now because we have over 200 carve-outs in our sales tax code, and it really does benefit the wealthy. And it's just infuriating. And we can have the conversation about, do you eliminate a grocery sales tax? I'm actually fine with that. Raise everything else up a little bit to compensate for that. But if we want to address the regressive talking point or whatever, but we want to try to reduce that tax burden on things that you absolutely have to have, let's talk about that and do that. But to say that, we can't, do everything, it's so mind-boggling.
Camelia, I'm telling you right now, we saw how Missouri voters were when it came to abortion. We have got, if this goes to the ballot, it's got to be all hands on deck. I don't care what it takes, but you got to standing in the rain, bleeding, doing everything we can to do this because we saw what happened with right to work here in Missouri. We saw what happened with abortion. I'm not saying Missouri voters can't be trusted, but we should not leave anything to chance. Because the process for trying to get this across the finish line is it's got to hit the legislature, it's got to hit the governor's desk, and then it's got to go to a vote of the people. And that is where democracy can rear its ugly head. So what can we do, Camelia?
I mean, I think the thing that we can do right now is to understand that to realize that whenever you see these talking points about, you're going to add, it's a sales tax hike because you're going to add a sales tax of 15, 20%. Those are made up, pulled out of the air numbers. You cannot believe these things that are coming out right now because first of all, those details aren't totally settled, but also I know that, it varies a lot with the quality of legislators in any government, and I know I'm an insider and a lobbyist now, like blah, 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 blah. But I can tell you that, like, the
That's what you
vast
get.
majority.
You
like,
went from
I
the
don't know.
grassroots. You went from the Look at you sitting in the Capitol all pretty. See, you're now part of the problem, aren't you, Camellia?
Well, I'm also part of the solution, and that is the difference between the keyboard warriors and me. Is I'm part of the solution. So,
hey, man, I'm gonna get 1,000 Facebook points for calling you out today.
But here's the thing: like, your legislators are not out to shaft you. Like, they're not out to like stick it to you with a 20% sales tax. It's the truth.
Boo! Bow to the Queen of Slime. Oh, man. So careers are going to be made on destroying you and your reputation, Camellia, because now you're an insider, and that's very elitist talk. Well, guess what? Being anti-democratic, being pro-Republican, small r, it's very anti-democratic, yes. And I'm gonna take a little nibble out of the Missouri voters here. I'm gonna take a little bite and say that there's a reason why we're not a democracy. Everyone, remember, this is not because we don't trust in the will of crowds. Camellia and I have done our homework on this for 20 years, fighting to get rid of this income tax to free you people. So, it is difficult to free fools from the chains that they revere, Camellia, because they love their slavery. At the end of the day, these people, if they don't vote for it, it's because they what was it Alexander Hamilton quote? He says that they that prefer embarrassment is that they're ready for a dictator and that they deserve one, something like that.
Okay. So, and here's the thing, big change is hard. I don't fault people for being scared about uncertainty and things changing. What really frustrates me in this is that everybody's thinking about themselves in this. And I'm thinking about, yes, I want no income tax, but I especially want no income tax and a better economy and a better place to live for my girls.
Yes, damn
and
right.
We need to think about the future generation. There's a reason, the reason why we do not have a straight democracy is the tyranny of the majority. Like we would, anyway,
we are a superstitious people, Camellia, and therefore we are prone to mysticism and views at looking like the economy and the free market. When they think about the invisible hand, they're thinking about that in a metaphysical sense, right? And it challenges their unitary version of the universe, right? When in reality, capitalism and free markets are to some extent like they almost mimic and imitate nature. It's almost the most natural thing in the world. We're talking about the freest expression of interactions, where a voluntary trade between me and my employer doesn't involve the government intruding upon my relationship with my employer to demand records on how much my employer paid me that week. If you want to get a tax from me, collect it at the port when I go and I buy some cheap shit from China. Pardon my French. I see Kathy Joy Loy's out there. She's probably ready to kick me out of there. Kathy Joy Loy, there. Look at that. There she is. This is where liberty lives. There, I'm going to let you alone, Camellia. You keep doing your insidery, elitist, anti-democratic nonsense, trying to abolish our income tax.
Well, I'm trying to rein in the administrative state here. So
get it, Camellia. We're with you. We love you very much. Anything else people need to know before we let you go?
Just a heads up, Jefferson City area people, and I'll try to send this out to people we know. We are having an event next Monday night for you about the income tax. Bill sponsors will be there to answer questions, all those kind of things. Bring them. We provide dinner.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Camellia, you rock.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good one.
And you notice, like in ISIS or Al Qaeda or like the Muslim extremists, they're all from like collapsed, pathetic societies dominated by colonial powers. They've been degraded, and that's why they're so angry, right? So there's something about being degraded that turns you into a violent nutcase extremist. You're seeing a lot of violent nutcase extremists in our country. Not surprising, because the country's being degraded.
Interesting. Not sure if I agree with that. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. I'm Austin Petersen. It's nice to meet you. If you've never been here before, this is the Wake Up America show. It's a 5-day-a-week, 2-hour live hangout in the mornings, and we were talking about the news. We've always got fantastic guests. What you hear on the Wake Up America show today, you will hear on other outlets, but only a week, 2 weeks later. So we're usually ahead of the curve here. And if you like that kind of thing and you'd like to join the community, when you click the follow button over on Rumble, you'll get a notification whenever we go live, which again, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We'd love to have you join our community and be a regular guest of our show. If you'd like to support the Wake Up America show financially, like a lot of people have done, looks like we've raised $66 towards today's bonus content. If we raise $100 by the end of the show, then we will you'll get an unlockable. So we have prizes that we give away whenever we raise a certain amount of money. So for $100, that will unlock our mini documentary. And for $150, then we all play mini games against one another. It turns into a game show, and it's whimsical and fun and delightful. And one person's going to walk away with a grand prize from the Grift Shop at forlibertyshop.com. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com. Check out all of the items there, and anything that you buy during this live show will count towards the total that we use to add up and get you guys to do the unlockables. So it's kind of like a little carnival circus going on behind the scenes. If you've never played the game, drop a Rumble rant or buy a sub over in the Rumble chat, and those count. And of course, purchases at forlibertyshop.com. Those count, and they help us build the For Liberty network. Okay, so here we go. So while you guys were standing around in these 5-hour TSA lines, the mayor of New York City was having dinner guests this last weekend. Well, not just any guests. Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University protest organizer who the Trump administration has been trying to deport, who organized the campus encampments where Jewish students were being harassed and intimidated, and who, when asked on point blank on CNN whether he condemned Hamas, declined to do that. And that man, Zohran Mamdani, posted the photo himself on X, wrote, and this is a direct quote, "Last night, as we marked the 1-year anniversary of his detention, Rama and I were honored to welcome Mahmoud Noor and their son Dean to Gracie Mansion to break our fast together." Honored. The mayor of New York City was honored to host a man who will not condemn the people who murdered 1,200 Israelis. So in the official residence of the mayor of New York City, which is a city with the largest Jewish population outside of Israel, the post got nearly 3 million views. Mamdani posted it proudly with a smile because he genuinely does not see the problem. And that is exactly the problem. Let me tell you about Zohran Mamdani, because I think that you deserve to know exactly who is running the biggest city in America. He's 34 years old. He was born in Kampala, Uganda, son of a post-colonialist academic and a filmmaker, officially sworn into office at midnight on January 1st, 2026, by Attorney General Letitia James, of course, then sworn in again publicly and ceremonially by Bernie Sanders at City Hall that afternoon. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke at the inauguration, and within hours of taking that oath, he had signed executive orders removing New York City's anti-Semitism protections and lifting the city's ban on boycotting Israel. So that was his first day of governance. Before potholes, before crime, before schools, before the $5.4 billion budget deficit that we will get to in a moment. Within hours of taking office, Zohran Mamdani stripped protections from Jewish New Yorkers, and he hasn't slowed down. Now let's talk about the first lady of New York City, Rama Douaji, 28 years old, illustrator, artist, and according to her husband, it's a direct quote, by the way, "a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in City Hall." Interesting. Private person. Keep that phrase in your head. On October 7th, 2023, the day that Hamas celebrated killing 1,200 people in Israel, including children, including elderly kibbutz residents, including young people at a music festival, Rama Douaji liked publicly, if you didn't know this, your likes on Instagram are public, celebrated. She liked Instagram posts that celebrated the attack. Jewish insiders confirmed this. On that same day, while the bodies were still being counted, she also liked a post in February 2024 claiming that the New York Times investigation into Hamas's mass sexual violence during October 7th was, quote, fabricated. It was a mass rape hoax. She liked that. And then there are the older posts. The Washington Beacon dug up her old Tumblr and Twitter accounts and found, at age 20, an approving post of Layla Khaled, which was the PFLP airplane hijacker who threatened to detonate a grenade unless pilots let her into the cockpit. At age 17, on International Women's Day, she reposted praise for Shadia Abu Ghazala, which was a PFLP terrorist who bombed a bus and was killed in 1968 building a bomb intended for a building in Tel Aviv. That was her International Women's Day celebration. Bus bomber. And then there is, oh, silly girl, the N-word. The Free Beacon linked an old Twitter account to Douaji using facial recognition and found a 2013 post using the racial slur. She would have been 15. Have we all not sinned and used the N-word at age 15? So I will flag that N-word allegation, though, as not being independently verified. The Free Beacon does stand by it, and multiple conservative outlets reported it, but let's use that with a caveat. So what is not in dispute is that within 24 hours of the Free Beacon's report, Douaji deactivated her old Twitter account and just deleted it, so it's gone. The behavior of a person with nothing to hide is not usually delete the evidence. Now, here's where the mayor's own story falls apart. So he calls her a private person with no role. But wait, 2 months before calling her private, he told an interviewer that she was, quote, the best advocate, and credited her with successfully lobbying him to close New York City public schools for a snow day after a student emailed her. So if your private person is making calls on school closures for 8 million New Yorkers, that private person is actually a policy advisor. And then there is this Susan Abu Hawa situation. So Douaji illustrated a piece for a book compiled by Palestinian author Susan Abu Hawa, which is a woman who called October 7th a spectacular moment that shocked the world. She described Jewish people as rootless, soulless ghouls, Jewish supremacist vampires, and parasites. When confronted about this, Mamdani called Abu Hawa's rhetoric patently unacceptable and reprehensible. Interesting. Except his wife's old posts contain language nearly identical to what he just called reprehensible. So she posted F Tel Aviv. Shouldn't exist in the first place. Mamdani called Abu Hawa's version reprehensible. His wife's version is, apparently, private. The mayor of New York City has one standard for authors he can distance himself from and a completely different standard for the woman he shares Gracie Mansion with. And this week, in possibly the most fitting possible capstone to this entire story, Israel's Ministry for Diaspora Affairs formally recommended blacklisting Rama Douaji from entering the country. First Lady of New York City just got recommended for a foreign travel ban. Private person. So let's go back to that dinner, because the Khalil dinner is not a one-off. So it's kind of a window into how this mayor thinks and who he considers his people. Mahmoud Khalil is not merely a community organizer, as his supporters would have you believe. He led the Columbia encampments where, and this is on video, Jewish students were told they were not welcome at Columbia. He said October 7th was a desperate attempt to tell the world that Palestinians are here, that Palestinians are part of the equation. So that is his characterization of a massacre. And when CNN sat down with him and asked him directly to condemn Hamas 3 times, he declined 3 times. So that is the man that Zohran Mamdani called an honor to host. That is the man the mayor of New York City invited to the people's house. But there's another detail. Mamdani's chief counsel, which is the top lawyer in his administration, that is Ramzi Qassem. Ramzi Qassem is one of Mahmoud Khalil's attorneys in his deportation case against the Trump administration. The mayor's own lawyer is defending the dinner guest. The personal and the professional in the Mamdani administration are not 2 separate things. They are the same thing. The New York City council member, Ina Vernikov, put it better than anybody else this week. Her quote about that dinner, this is a direct quote, "Just a casual dinner at Gracie with the lovely private citizen, shy wifey, whose fingers could not keep up with liking posts about the massacre of Jews." So that's an elected official in New York City about the mayor of New York City on the record. And then the night before this dinner, an ISIS-inspired terror attack targeted Gracie Mansion itself. Do you guys remember the two men who threw the homemade explosive devices at a crowd outside the mayor's official residence while that white leftist preached about how we need to keep these people in the country while they're throwing bombs? So those two, they've been charged with attempting to support ISIS, attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction. So the sequence of events at Gracie Mansion in the span of 48 hours was attempted ISIS terrorist attack. Then Mamdani hosts the man the federal government is trying to deport for pro-Hamas activism, and then posts the photo proudly. That's the week at Gracie Mansion. Nothing to see here. All is well. Here's where we might get to what could be the most revealing thing that Zohran Mamdani has done since taking office. When the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury and killed Ayatollah Khamenei, the man who funded Hamas, funded Hezbollah, killed over 200 Marines, funded every proxy that has spent decades trying to destroy Israel, killed Americans, Zohran Mamdani went on X and posted this, direct quote, "Today's military strikes on Iran carried out by the United States and Israel mark a catastrophic escalation in an illegal war of aggression, bombing cities, killing civilians, opening a new theater of war. Americans do not want this. They do not want another war in pursuit of regime change." 20 million views. The mayor of New York City called the killing of the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism a catastrophic escalation. Senator Ted Cruz responded, "Comrade Mayor is rooting for the Ayatollah. They can chant together." And then this is the part that should make every Iranian American, Mouneh Rahimi and others, and people in New York City furious. An Iranian American journalist named Mashi Al-Najad, a woman who has spent her life fighting the regime that Mamdani was defending, posted, "I don't feel safe in New York listening to someone like you, Mamdani, who sympathizes with the regime that killed more than 30,000 unarmed Iranians in less than 24 hours. 30,000 Iranians were killed by the regime that Mamdani was mourning. And Iranian New Yorkers, the people who fled that regime, who lost family to that regime, were celebrating in the streets of Manhattan, while their mayor, of course, was calling it a catastrophic escalation." And here's the part that the media has mostly skipped over. In January of 2026, just 2 months earlier, Mamdani criticized the Iranian regime's violence against anti-government protesters. Oh. So he condemned protesters. He condemned the regime for killing Iranians. But when America killed the head of that regime, he condemned America. The regime is bad when it kills its own people, but America killing the head of that regime is an illegal war of aggression. So, interesting. Sounds like it's not really a foreign policy position. It's more of an ideology. And the ideology, of course, on the left is always the same. It's anti-Americanism, and it's sitting in the mayor's office of New York City. Now, let's talk about what Mamdani is doing to the city itself, because all of this radical ideology comes with the price tag, and the price tag is being paid by 8.5 million New Yorkers who mostly voted for him because he promised to make things cheaper, free buses. They weren't voting for the whole Hamas agenda thing. They just wanted to be able to get into a grocery store and be able to afford baby formula. They wanted universal child care. They thought that he was going to freeze the rent. They thought there was going to be a $30 minimum wage. It sounded great. And then he got into office and discovered, apparently for the first time, that New York City has a $5.4 billion budget deficit. He responded to this discovery by proposing a $127 billion budget that increases spending by $14 billion. That's how Mamdani does math. City's $5 billion in the hole. Let's spend $14 billion more. NYC comptroller Mark Levine, his own comptroller, a Democrat, said flatly, New York is spending more money than it takes in. Moody's flagged the city's finances. S&P flagged the city's finances. And Mamdani's response is to blame former Mayor Eric Adams and demand Albany raise taxes on the rich, which requires the governor's cooperation, which he currently does not have because Kathy Hochul is begging people to drive to Florida to bring back those millionaires and begging people, patriotic millionaires, to write checks to the Treasury. But let's check in on the promises Free buses, remember, free buses. The buses are run by the MTA, which is controlled by the state, not the city. The MTA has made it clear that there's no appetite for eliminating fares. The MTA also has an $800 million annual deficit of its own. Free buses, not happening. City-owned grocery stores, Mamdani earmarked $70 million, $10 million more than he promised on the campaign trail for 5 government-run grocery stores. So while the city is $5 billion in the hole, the $70 million does not include the feasibility study, does not include ongoing operational costs, does not include staff salaries. And the last city to try this, my home city, Kansas City, just closed its government grocery store after almost a decade of sinking money into it. City-owned grocery stores, already more expensive than advertised and functionally proven not to work. It doesn't even work in theory. The Department of Community Safety, remember this one, this was going to be a $1 billion a year agency. This was the crown jewel of his criminal justice reform vision that he sold. The civilian force that would replace cops at mental health calls and transform public safety in New York City. He launched it with 2 staff members. 2. And according to PBS, by the way, not a conservative outlet, he said, few immediate plans to shift the city's approach to 911 calls. The billion-dollar agency has 2 employees and no plans and no power. Mamdani told voters that raising taxes on the rich would pay for all of this. The city's own budget office has made it clear. Even if he gets every tax hike he wants from Albany, it will not close a $12 billion structural gap. But the grocery stores are still happening. The socialism must be protected. Here's what New York City actually elected. Not what it thought it was electing. The charming young mayor with the Hinge love story and the cool campaign graphics and videos and the promise to make everything more affordable. But what it actually elected is a mayor who, within hours of taking office, immediately went after the Jews, immediately hosted a man who won't condemn Hamas in the People's House, who called the killing of the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism a catastrophic escalation, who called the capture of Nicolas Maduro on his own official government website an act of war and violation of federal and international law. No. Who shared a stage with a man who led chants for strikes on Tel Aviv, whose wife liked posts celebrating the October 7th massacre, whose wife liked to post calling the mass rape of Israelis a hoax, whose wife glorified airplane hijackers and bus bombers on her personal accounts, whose wife just got recommended for a travel ban by a foreign government, and whose response to all of this is to call her a private person and change the subject to free buses that he cannot actually deliver. The pattern here is not subtle. The pattern is consistent, and the pattern has a name, which is that Zohran Mamdani is not a mainstream Democratic mayor who happens to have a complicated foreign policy. He's not even Gavin Newsom, the feckless governor of California. He's an ideological actor operating from an incoherent worldview that is fundamentally hostile to America's allies, sympathetic to America's enemies, and committed to a domestic economic vision that has failed everywhere it's been tried. He just has better graphic design than most socialists. The city of New York has a $5.4 billion deficit, a first lady recommended for travel bans, a Department of Community Safety with 2 employees, a mayor who mourns Ayatollahs, and a dinner guest who will not condemn Hamas. And somewhere in that city, 8.5 million people are waiting for the free buses that are never going to come. This is what the left looks like when it wins. Remember it. America is awake. We will be right back. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America show. Did you guys unlock the bonus content? Let's do it. Unlock that bonus content during the commercials, and if we raise less than $10, then I will start the bonus content in the middle of the commercials so you can watch that instead of commercials. When we get back, time for a little Chuck Norris.
In a city where businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up, he keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
And always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
In the storm-lashed harbor of Charlestown, Nevis, British West Indies, On January 11, 1755 or 1757, records differ, a bastard boy was born to Rachel Fawcett Lavian and James Hamilton, a Scottish merchant who would soon vanish like smoke. Alexander Hamilton entered the world illegitimate, orphaned young, mother dead of fever at 13, father gone, estate seized. Left with nothing but a fierce mind and fiercer ambition, he clerked for a trading house on St. Croix, learned ledgers, currencies, ships, and the brutal arithmetic of colonial commerce. Hurricanes ravaged the island in 1772. Young Hamilton wrote a vivid letter describing the terror that so moved local planters they pooled money to send him north for education. He landed in New York in 1772 at 17, small, slight, red-haired, eyes burning with intellect. King's College, now Columbia, took him in. He devoured Locke, Montesquieu, Blackstone, and the radical pamphlets flooding the streets. When Lexington cracked in 1775, Hamilton was ready. He joined a volunteer militia company, the Corsicans, drilling in the churchyard. By March 1776, he commanded a provincial artillery company, youngest captain in the Continental Army, hauling 6-pounders through New York streets, training gunners with ruthless precision. The British invasion came hard. August 1776, Long Island disaster. Hamilton's battery covered the retreat across the East River, guns blazing through fog and night. Washington watched the slim artillerymen direct fire with cool fury, saving thousands from capture. In the brutal winter retreat across New Jersey, Hamilton's guns again held the line at Trenton and Princeton. Cannon smoke thick, Hessian bayonets flashing, victory snatched from despair. Washington needed a right hand. In March 1777, he made Hamilton his aide-de-camp, 22 years old, now lieutenant colonel. For 4 years, Hamilton lived in Washington's tent, wrote his letters, drafted orders, spied out enemy lines, negotiated with Congress for supplies. His pen was a weapon, fiery, eloquent, cutting through red tape. He ghost-wrote the general's dispatches, shaped policy, and burned with frustration at congressional weakness and military blunders. Yet he idolized Washington, the father he never had, and Washington trusted him like no other. Valley Forge, 1777-78. Hamilton shared the cold, the hunger, the typhus. He mastered French to liaise with Lafayette, trained with von Steuben, forged the army anew. Monmouth, Rhode Island, Morristown, he was everywhere, saber at side, voice cutting through chaos. By 1780, the war dragged. Hamilton itched for field command. Washington finally gave him a light infantry battalion. October 14, 1781, Yorktown. The siege had ground on, 2 redoubts, 9 and 10, blocked the second parallel. Stormy night, rain lashing. Hamilton led the American assault on Redoubt 10. Bayonets fixed, no shots fired to keep surprise. They hacked through abatis, leaped the ditch, scaled the parapet in savage hand-to-hand. Hessians fought hard. Hamilton's men overpowered them in minutes. Across the field, French troops took Redoubt 9. The guns moved in. Cornwallis's line cracked. 5 days later, the British marched out to surrender. Hamilton's charge helped seal the war's end. Peace came slow. Hamilton resigned in 1782, married Elizabeth Schuyler, wealthy, devoted, the anchor of his life, and plunged into law and politics in New York. But the Confederation was dying. Weak Congress, bankrupt states, Shays' rebellion brewing. Hamilton saw the abyss. At Annapolis in 1786, he pushed for a stronger convention. In Philadelphia, 1787, he spoke boldly for a vigorous executive, lifetime senators, centralized power, ideas too radical for many. When the Constitution emerged, he fought for ratification. With James Madison and John Jay, he wrote The Federalist, 85 essays, 51 his own, masterpieces of argument that sold the document to a doubting nation. As first Treasury Secretary in 1789, Alexander Hamilton built a financial system from ashes, assumed state debts, created a national bank, funded the debt, imposed tariffs, established excise taxes. He forged America's credit abroad, stabilized currency, sparked industry. Enemies, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, called him monarchist, Anglophile. The feud exploded. partisan newspapers, personal attacks, the Reynolds affair scandal in 1791 that blackened his name but spared his honor. He resigned in 1795 but never stopped advising George Washington, drafting the farewell address. In 1800, he helped swing the election against Aaron Burr, whom he despised as a schemer. When Burr ran for governor in 1804, Hamilton's letters again damned him. Aaron Burr demanded satisfaction. July 11, 1804, Weehawken Heights, dawn mist on the Hudson, pistols at 10 paces. Hamilton fired into the air. Delope, some say. Delope, or deloping, is an obsolete dueling term referring to the practice of deliberately firing a pistol into the air or away from an opponent to intentionally waste a shot. Burr, however, aimed true. The ball struck Hamilton's spine. He fell bleeding. Carried back to New York, he lingered 30 hours, reconciled with God, forgiving his killer. Died July 12, 1804, at 49. Alexander Hamilton was no saint. Arrogant, impulsive, driven by demons of illegitimacy and ambition. He loved power, distrusted the mob, believed in strong government. Yet he bled for liberty at 20, built a nation at 30, and died defending his honor. From bastard clerk to architect of America's economy, his mind shaped the republic more than any cannon or charge. The orphan who rose to forge a superpower, brilliant, flawed, immortal.
Would you welcome him, ladies and gentlemen? Get out! Try this. Oh, thank you.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Ohio gozaimasu. Austin Petersen here. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Rise and Freedom. So glad and thankful to have you here today. For those of you who know me personally, you probably know one of my greatest accomplishments in life is becoming a karate sensei here in my small town in Jefferson City, Missouri. I took over about a year ago and been loving it. My martial arts journey has seen me go from man in my mid-20s, overweight, out of work, struggling with some depression, to the beautiful man that you see in front of you. All right, so maybe that's not the best endorsement for karate, but still. No, it's definitely been a very positive, humbling experience for me in my life, my 20-year journey. I started when I was working and living in New York City. I remember I had been insulted about my weight at the time. And, you know, you're in your mid-20s, you're living in New York City. People are very shallow, of course, but I needed to be bullied, honestly. Bring back bullying. Fat shaming worked for me. And I had always wanted to take karate ever since I was a little kid because I loved blood sport. I loved Jean-Claude Van Damme. I loved Jackie Chan. And, of course, I loved Chuck Norris. I admired these people. Karate Kid was one of my favorite movies. So having been inspired by that, I remember seeing the neon sign on Steinway Street in Astoria, near where I lived at 3433 43rd Street, Long Island City, New York, at Sensei Kai Lung's Shoto Juku Dojo, and walked up to the second floor, bowed, said, "Os," walked into the dojo and changed my life forever. Lost weight, got confidence, unlocked new reservoirs of strength within myself, and all because of a little fat shaming and some inspiration from people like Chuck Norris. Yes. So let's go back in time to a great moment in American history, in international history, and in the history of my particular martial art, which is Japanese karate. Madison Square Garden, 1968. The air still has that aftermath to it, the smell. Was anybody alive back then, or at least far back enough to remember the smell of cigarette smoke around liniment, the crowd noise falling away but not gone yet? Chuck Norris has just won the All-American Karate Championship. That's what you're seeing right now. His breath is still hot. His hands feel alive. He's standing there in this strange moment after a fight when your body knows something big has happened before your mind has caught up to it. Then a smaller man comes toward him through the building, lean, quiet, alert, with the kind of presence that pulls your eyes to him even before he says a word. It is Bruce Lee. He introduces himself, says he's been watching Norris all day, and before long, they're talking about fighting, not trophies or showmanship, but movement, timing, distance. What makes a man dangerous once the formalities fall away? And by Chuck Norris's own retelling, that conversation kept going until it turned into an impromptu sparring session in a hotel corridor that lasted until sunrise. So that is one of those stories that sticks with you because you can see it. A Manhattan hallway after midnight, dim light, carpet underfoot. The city's making its noise outside while inside two men are testing each other. And that immediate recognition that the man in front of you is the real thing, that's really where the story begins. Not in Hollywood or memes, in work, in curiosity, in the quest for mastery, in two men recognizing the substance of each other. So for the next 2 years, Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee trained together in Bruce Lee's backyard in Los Angeles, California. Dry air, feet resetting on concrete, the sharp snap of kicks, low back and forth of two men who did not fight the same way, but they made each other better. Lee was fluid, restless, inventive. Norris was disciplined, structured, powerful. Now, those differences were not a barrier. They were the whole point. Norris later said that Bruce Lee's confidence and wit were dazzling, sometimes even debilitating to others. When a man like Chuck Norris talks that way about another fighter, it really means something because it tells you that this was not just a friendship. This was respect, and it was earned the hard way. That respect is what gave us one of the most famous fight scenes ever filmed. Lee called Norris and asked him to play the villain in a movie. Norris asked the obvious question, who wins? And Lee gave the perfect answer. He did not want to beat the world champion. He wanted to kill the world champion. And their fight in the Roman Colosseum still feels different from everything that came. He joined the United States Air Force. He was stationed at Osan Air Base in South Korea. This is a pivot point of the story because it was in Korea, not in Hollywood, not on a movie set, not in front of a camera, that Chuck Norris began training in Tang Soo Do, which is a Korean martial art. The man served in Korea, trained in a Korean art, and built his entire career on a foundation that was laid down in that culture. And he later expanded into Taekwondo, karate, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and ultimately founded his own discipline, Chun Kuk Do, which translates directly as the universal way. He didn't borrow an identity, he built one. And before he became famous, before the movies and the memes, before any of it, he competed, he fought, and he lost. And I want to stay on that for a moment because it's sort of essential to understanding who this man was. Chuck Norris lost his first two competitive bouts. Dropped decisions to Joe Louis and Alan Steen. The man who would later become a 6-time world champion started his career 0-2. He went back to the gym. He trained harder. He figured out what he did wrong, and then he fixed it. And then he won the 1967 tournament after defeating 7 opponents, including a final victory over Skipper Mullins, and then he did not stop. he was an animal. He became the 6-time undefeated professional middleweight karate champion from 1968 to 1974. 6 consecutive titles, undefeated. The highest honor black belt magazine can award. He was a 10th degree black belt. His full credential sheet: 5th degree black belt karate, 8th degree taekwondo, 9th degree tang sudo, 3rd degree in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, 10th degree in his own system. So he was not playing a martial artist for the cameras. He was the real thing. The most credentialed martial artist in the history of American cinema, and he got there by losing first. And that's a conservatism lesson before it's a martial arts lesson. You're not entitled to the belt, you earn it. The system does not adjust to your feelings adjust to the system. And if you fail, and Norris did fail, you don't blame the judges, you don't demand a recount, you go back to work. There's no ideology more conservative, in my mind, than the belt ranking system. So white belt to black belt, if it's a good school, is a pure meritocracy. There is no affirmative action for your roundhouse kick. Nobody hands you a rank because you showed up consistently and tried hard. You demonstrate competence or you do not advance. That's it. It's everything that the left hates and everything that the right believes. And it is what Chuck Norris lived every single day from age 18 until his last birthday workout in Hawaii. When he came back from the Air Force in 1962, Chuck Norris applied to be a police officer in Torrance, California. He was put on a wait list. So while he waited, he opened up a martial arts studio. The studio later expanded into a chain. And the studio it had students like Steve McQueen, Bob Barker, Priscilla Presley, and Donnie and Marie Osmond. So it was McQueen who encouraged him to get into acting. And even then, even with McQueen's endorsement, Norris didn't walk into fame. He took acting classes. He worked for it. His first major film role came in 1977 in a low-budget action film called Breaker Breaker. They shot the whole thing in 11 days. It made money, and he built from there. Every single step of Chuck Norris's career was earned. Every single one. He was not born into this. He was not given this. He started out shy, poor, and introverted in Oklahoma, and then he built an empire through discipline and grit. And if that's not the American dream, then nothing is. So here's where I want to stop and spend some time, because this is the part of the Chuck Norris story that does not get told. The philosophy underneath the films. Thank you, Andy Opperman, by the way. Largesse from Vegas. You're a good man, sir. Looks like we're going to do the great grift off before the end of the show. That's awesome. Thank you, Andy. So we're going to talk about why Chuck Norris was more than just a tough guy who hit people. What strength was for, and what it meant to be the most dangerous person in the room, and then choose not to act like it. So he gave an interview to David Letterman. It's one of the most honest things any public figure has ever said about masculinity. He said, everyone thinks of karate strictly as a physical application, but what it does is it strengthens you mentally, psychologically, and emotionally, because most violence is stemmed from insecurity, trying to prove something to yourself. And when a person develops this inner security and this goal-seeking knowledge that the martial arts teaches you to do, it overcomes a lot of violent confrontations. The dojo-kun for my Shotokan karate, we finish every class by saying, refrain from violent behavior. And I see some of these young people, especially these young men, and you can sort of detect the violent impulses inside of them. And that's normal for young men. You see that. And if you take this energy and you channel it into healthy ways and you help them to overcome their insecurities, then you use the martial arts to hone them and to turn them into someone who doesn't want to commit violence, doesn't need to commit violence. You see, there's something about the fine art of getting punched in the face over and over that makes you not want to have to do it for real. It's true. I can't tell you how important the lesson that a young man learns when he gets punched in the face for the very first time. It is very enlightening. And if you're like me and you got a mouth and you like to run your mouth because you're a bit of a smart ass, well, you better learn how to block. Uchi uki. Chudan soto uke. You better learn how to jodan age uke, or else you're going to get the mawashigeri. You know what I'm saying? Ichi, ni, san, shi. Most violence is stemmed from insecurity. The toughest man in Hollywood is telling you the whole point of being tough is to not need to use it. That the kid who gets into fights is not strong, he's afraid. That the man who has nothing to prove because he's already proved it to himself is the one who walks away from the fight. So that is the antidote to what people would call a form of toxic masculinity. If there is toxic masculinity, this is healthy masculinity. Let's be real. So he told Letterman that the type of films I want to do is a good story with good acting, good direction, and with martial arts scenes inserted when it's emotionally right. So the difference between violence and action is the philosophy when you use it. And if a person tries to avoid a violent confrontation, but he's finally pushed into the corner where there's no way out, well, then you want to have the ability to cope with it. So develop the ability to cope with it if you cannot. That's not really aggression in the sense, that's preparedness. So that's kind of the Second Amendment in philosophical form. That's every conservative argument about self-defense compressed into one sentence by a man who actually knew how to fight. And once he said something else that really gets the heart of what this training actually does to a man. He said he believed if everyone knew karate, there would be less violence in the world, not more, less. Because the person who has developed genuine capability has nothing to prove. The aggression evaporates when the insecurity that produces it is gone. So Norris was not building fighters. He was building character in people who learned that they did not need to fight. And that's a profound distinction, and the one that the media that covered his death this week almost entirely missed. So I came to the martial arts through the influence of men like Norris, through the tradition that he represented, the idea that discipline is not a burden, but it is something more of a liberation. That training your body is inseparable from training your character, that the mat is not a place where you dominate other people. It's a place where you conquer yourself. And then if you do that enough times in the dojo, then you start doing it everywhere else in your life, in your relationships, in your work, in your politics, in the way that you treat people who cannot fight back. The martial arts tradition that Chuck Norris inherited and expanded and passed on is one of the most genuinely conservative philosophies that exists, not because of who it votes for, because of what it believes about how a person becomes worthy of their own life. So let's address this article that came out in the Hollywood Reporter, because a piece that was published this week titled "How Chuck Norris Helped Create the Manosphere" argued that Walker, Texas Ranger, helped produce an ethos of aggrieved righteousness that drew a line straight to Andrew Tate. The author even quoted a Walker line, "If I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you," which is a good line. It's a good line. So the reason why, the piece is concluding, is so it confuses the image with the philosophy. It mistakes the aesthetic of violence from the movies with the actual life of the actual man. So here's the Andrew Tate lineage. Andrew Tate built an empire charging young men $50 a month to learn how to manipulate women. He currently faces charges of human trafficking and rape in Romania. His core message is that strength is a license, that being capable means being entitled to take what you want from people who are weaker than you. And that is what the left sees as the manosphere. And that's what it sees as its philosophical core. Not Chuck Norris, but Andrew Tate, power as permission. But in 1990, at the height of Chuck Norris's fame, when he could have been doing literally anything, he founded a nonprofit program called Kickstart Kids. And he had George H.W. Bush come out for it. And he started teaching karate to kids from mixed backgrounds. And no subscription, no fee, the same discipline that transformed him from a shy kid into one of the greatest martial artists of all time. He took those skills and he gave them away for free. Today, that Chuck Norris program operates in more than 59 schools throughout Texas. It's served more than 120,000 students since it launched. The mission statement directly from the organization is this: teaching character through karate to empower youth with core values such as discipline and respect to achieve their greatest potential. And Norris himself said the data backs it up. Students who are in this program show higher self-esteem, lower drug use, less violence, and less fighting. He used the martial arts tradition to take the kids most likely to become statistics and gave them that inner security that removes the need for insecurity-driven violence. So that is the actual Chuck Norris legacy. Not a podcast, a free karate program in Texas middle schools that has touched 120,000 young lives. Andrew Tate charged $50 a month. Chuck Norris gave it away in schools. They're not the same lineage. So the Hollywood Reporter is doing what intellectuals always do with men they don't understand. They attribute the worst possible downstream use of an idea to the originator of that idea. By that logic, of course, Teddy Roosevelt created the incel movement. By that logic, every John Wayne film is a manifesto. The manosphere, the modern manosphere, didn't grow from the Andrew Tate sphere of things didn't grow from Chuck Norris. It grew from stripping away what Chuck Norris actually stood for: the faith, the service, the discipline in service of character, the strength directed outward towards protection of the innocent, and then left only the fist. And that's not an inheritance. That is a desecration of Chuck Norris's legacy. So Chuck Norris was a Republican, openly, unapologetically, in a town, Hollywood, where that commitment costs you something real. It costs you roles. It costs you relationships. It costs you invitations. It costs you press coverage. Norris paid that price every year for decades and never flinched. And I want to tell you why he was a Republican, in his own words, because it sounds prescient in 2026. In a 2014 interview at a rally for Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Norris said this: "I used to be a Democrat, but unfortunately the Democrats went too far to the left. They just got completely off the trail and lost all reality of what America stood for. And so I realized that Republicans at this point in time are more focused on what is best for America than what the Democrats are." And then he said something that cuts right to the heart of this current moment. President Kennedy today would be a Republican, because then Democrats were more what the Republicans were today. And unfortunately, they lost their way. Chuck Norris called the Democratic Party's current position on the NBC favorability poll 12 years before it came out. The man punched through time. Even his political analysis had perfect timing. Chuck Norris's conservatism was not a performance. It was not brand management. It was risky, and it was rooted directly in his Christian faith. Chuck Norris was a devout Baptist, a member of Prestonwood Baptist Church in Dallas. He was part of the Southern Baptist Convention. He wrote books on Christian living. He wrote a regular political column from a faith perspective. He described his faith journey as a conscious turning point that reshaped everything: his views on family, on responsibility, on moral discipline. And he didn't compartmentalize his beliefs. He lived them out loud when paid the price for doing so. In Hollywood, living your faith out loud is one of the bravest things a person can do. And Norris did that for 40 years without apology. He endorsed Ronald Reagan and called him, direct quote, "a fine man and a great leader for our country." He had a genuine personal friendship with President George H.W. Bush and First Lady Barbara Bush. Norris wrote about them warmly, noting they shared many wonderful, memorable times together over the decades. He endorsed Mike Huckabee in 2008 and starred in the famous Huck Chuck Facts video where Huckabee said, "My plan to secure the border, 2 words, Chuck Norris." And he would have been able to do it. He endorsed Donald Trump in 2016, publicly supported him in 2020 and 2024. Trump's response when he was told of Norris's death was vintage Trump. He was a great guy. He was a really tough cookie. We don't want to fight him. He was a great supporter. That's too bad. President of the United States saying out loud he didn't want to fight Chuck Norris. That is the correct response. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said Norris electrified generations of conservatives, and that's right. And here's where the martial arts and the conservatism connect in a way I think is genuinely important and genuinely underappreciated, and why I've decided to spend a whole half an hour talking about the guy. The karate belt system is a meritocracy, one of the purest ones that still exists in modern American life. When it's done right, white belt to black belt at a good school is earned through demonstrated competence. Nobody inherits a rank. Nobody's given a black belt because they showed up consistently, just tried their best. You either demonstrate mastery or you don't advance. And in that system, that is the physical embodiment of the conservative philosophy of earned achievement, of the idea that your station in life should reflect your effort and your excellence, not your circumstances or your grievances or your identity. Norris himself proved it. Poor kid from Oklahoma, lost his first 2 fights, not because the system was rigged in his favor, because he refused to stop. So that's the argument made in physical form. He's lived it out over his lifetime. He's one man, and that man was Chuck Norris. So there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and you'll come back if you guys want to join me in karate. I can't believe it. We actually did have a guy join us on Wednesday nights here in Jefferson City. If you're ever interested in taking a karate class, your first class you can come and take for free. So if you're interested in joining us on Wednesday nights, if you ever find yourself in Jefferson City, Missouri on Wednesday nights, the kids class is at 5:30. The adult class is at 6:30. Just hit us up, send us a DM, and we'll connect you with the address so that you can come out and join us and do a little sparring. You think anybody wants a roundhouse kick to the face when I'm wearing one of these? You can only get shirts like these at forlibertyshop.com. How's that for a segue? Celebrate 250 years of liberty. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, that's the number 4, libertyshop.com. You can check out all of our 250th anniversary collection. Look at this beautiful Boston Tea Party mug. You definitely want to check that out. Head on over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. And if you do, then make sure you pick up something from our collection. We're going to play The Great Grift Off now. If you guys are interested in playing, head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. When you go to crowdparty.app, you'll see a place to enter that code. 36015 is the code. Head over to crowdparty.app and sign in. We're all going to play mini games against each other, and you are going to win a prize. Something nice from the Grift Shop. First place winner of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader today. Anybody can play. If you can hear my voice live right now, then the game is on. The game is afoot. So head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. Type this code into your phone. Hurry up. 36015. Type that code in. Join us in the game. In just a few moments, I'm going to shut down the game. We'll have a 30-second countdown. Basically, St. Selma is going to win with a 100% odd certainty. Of course, you could have a 50-50. Now it's 50-50 because St. Selma and Quest are logged into play. Anyone can log in and play. Now it's a third of a chance to win. Pork Chop just joined. Remember, anyone can join live and play with us now by going to crowdparty.app. Itchy McGroin can't play. He's got to go do stuff. Good to see you, Itchy. Thanks for joining us, dude. 4 out of 50 players. We can have up to 50 people playing. Remember, we're playing Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And the first place winner will get a nice prize from the Grift Shop. So head to crowdparty.app. We'll start the 30-second countdown right now. You have 30 seconds to join this game. Go to crowdparty.app. Anybody in the world can play. If you can hear my voice live right now, I beseech thee, you have 20 seconds to join the game at crowdparty.app. Will run right. He's driving, so probably not a great idea. Agreed. But if you're not driving, all right, you've got a 1 in 6 chance at this point. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1. Let's play. What does a paleontologist study? Let us know. What does a paleontologist study? Quest Fanning sitting at number 1. There are 12 rounds of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? If you're watching this right now and confused as to what's going on, we're all playing Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And everybody's welcome, of course. We play this game as a fun little way to share our Griff Shop with everyone because the first place winner is going to win a nice prize from the Griff Shop. See the little Minesweeper game? You could be playing this too, but you playing. Or you not playing. How many letters are in the English alphabet? Questions like those. Everybody but one got that one right. Pork chop sitting at number 1. We're round 6 of 12, so the game's halfway over. What is the word for another word that is similar in meaning? Is it synonym, antonym, or homonym? It's synonym. Got to have some synonym rolls. Is blue an adjective or a noun? Noun. Both, neither, or adjective. Pork chop and Quest are fighting it out for first, second place. The plural of moose is meese, moose, moose, or mooses. Moose. Meese. Mises. Moose. Oh my God. 3 of you got it wrong. Pork chop and Quest. Very close. The interior angles of a triangle always add up to 100 degrees, 270 degrees, 180 degrees, or 360 degrees. The interior angles. The gift thing is always so tricky. It's 50-50 odds. You're going to get the poop or are you going to get the diamond? Oh, the star. Did you get the gift? Oh, man, that could sink you. You could be doing so well answering all the questions, and those mini games, they'll just screw you. What do you call a group of crows? A huddle, an unkindness, a flock, or a murder? A murder. Oh, Quest used that one to leapfrog pork chop. This is it. Last round. Decide who is the winner. What is the largest internal organ in the human body? Skin, liver, stomach, or lungs? In my case, it's the stomach. Womp womp. It's the liver. Please deliver. Meow mix, meow mixed. Drugs? What? Came out of nowhere. So what does that mean? That means that the first place winner, Drugs, needs to send us a text because you are the winner of the game, and you'll get a $20 gift card to the Grift Shop. Send us a text at that phone line that you see at the bottom of the screen, 573-319-1586, and enjoy your prize over at forlibertyshop.com. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow. Don't forget, today, Cafecito Libre, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. The great Mylene Salabaria. Go to rumble.com/Cafecito Libre. Follow her for more news on Latin America. Then Culturama from 7 to 9, starring Daniela Pensac. All of these shows, Tuesdays and Thursdays, very busy on the For Liberty Network. We got 5 live shows on this network. We're blowing it up. Liberty Tonight with Brian Piotr. All thanks to the financial generosity of viewers and listeners just like you. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow. It's the Wake Up America show, and that's on the For Liberty Network.
In the storm-lashed harbor of Charlestown, Nevis, British West Indies, on January 11th, 1755 or 1757, records differ. A bastard boy was born to Rachel Fawcett Lavian and James Hamilton, a Scottish merchant who would soon vanish like smoke. Alexander Hamilton entered the world illegitimate, orphaned young, mother dead of fever at 13, father gone, estate seized. Left with nothing but a fierce mind and fiercer ambition, he clerked for a trading house on St. Croix, learned ledgers, currencies, ships, and the brutal arithmetic of colonial commerce. Hurricanes ravaged the island in 1772. Young Hamilton wrote a vivid letter describing the terror that so moved local planters they pooled money to send him north for education. He landed in New York in 1772 at 17, small, slight, red-haired, eyes burning with intellect. King's College, now Columbia, took him in. He devoured Locke, Montesquieu, Blackstone, and the radical pamphlets flooding the streets. When Lexington cracked in 1775, Hamilton was ready. He joined a volunteer militia company, the Corsicans, drilling in the churchyard. By March 1776, he commanded a provincial artillery company, youngest captain in the Continental Army, hauling 6-pounders through New York streets, training gunners with ruthless precision. The British invasion came hard. August 1776, Long Island disaster. Hamilton's battery covered the retreat across the East River, guns blazing through fog and night. Washington watched the slim artillerymen direct fire with cool fury, saving thousands from capture. In the brutal winter retreat across New Jersey, Hamilton's guns again held the line at Trenton and Princeton. Cannon smoke thick, Hessian bayonets flashing, victory snatched from despair. Washington needed a right hand. In March 1777, he made Hamilton his aide-de-camp, 22 years old, now lieutenant colonel. For 4 years, Hamilton lived in Washington's tent, wrote his letters, drafted orders, spied out enemy lines, negotiated with Congress for supplies. His pen was a weapon, fiery, eloquent, cutting through red tape. He ghostwrote the general's dispatches, shaped policy, and burned with frustration at congressional weakness and military blunders. Yet he idolized Washington, the father he never had, and Washington trusted him like no other. Valley Forge, 1777-78. Hamilton shared the cold, the hunger, the typhus. He mastered French to liaise with Lafayette, trained with von Steuben, forged the army anew. Monmouth, Rhode Island, Morristown, he was everywhere, saber at side, voice cutting through chaos. By 1780, the war dragged. Hamilton itched for field command. Washington finally gave him a light infantry battalion. October 14th, 1781, Yorktown. The siege had ground on, 2 redoubts, 9 and 10, blocked the second parallel. Stormy night, rain lashing. Hamilton led the American assault on Redoubt 10. Bayonets fixed, no shots fired to keep surprise. They hacked through abatis, leaped the ditch, scaled the parapet in savage hand-to-hand. Hessians fought hard. Hamilton's men overpowered them in minutes. Across the field, French troops took Redoubt 9. The guns moved in. Cornwallis's line cracked. 5 days later, the British marched out to surrender. Hamilton's charge helped seal the war's end. Peace came slow. Hamilton resigned in 1782, married Elizabeth Schuyler, wealthy, devoted, the anchor of his life, and plunged into law and politics in New York. but the Confederation was dying. Weak Congress, bankrupt states, Shays' rebellion brewing. Hamilton saw the abyss. At Annapolis in 1786, he pushed for a stronger convention. In Philadelphia, 1787, he spoke boldly for a vigorous executive, lifetime senators, centralized power, ideas too radical for many. When the Constitution emerged, he fought for ratification. With James Madison and John Jay, he wrote The Federalist, 85 essays, 51 his own, masterpieces of argument that sold the document to a doubting nation. As first Treasury Secretary in 1789, Alexander Hamilton built a financial system from ashes, assumed state debts, created a national bank, funded the debt, imposed tariffs, established excise taxes. He forged America's credit abroad, stabilized currency, sparked industry. Enemies, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, called him monarchist, Anglophile. The feud exploded. Partisan newspapers, personal attacks, the Reynolds Affair scandal in 1791 that blackened his name but spared his honor. He resigned in 1795 but never stopped advising George Washington, drafting the farewell address. In 1800, he helped swing the election against Aaron Burr, whom he despised as a schemer. When Burr ran for governor in 1804, Hamilton's letters again damned him. Aaron Burr demanded satisfaction. July 11, 1804, Weehawken Heights, dawn mist on the Hudson, pistols at 10 paces. Hamilton fired into the air. Delope, some say. Delope, or deloping, is an obsolete dueling term referring to the practice of deliberately firing a pistol into the air or away from an opponent to intentionally waste a shot. Burr, however, aimed true. The ball struck Hamilton's spine. He fell bleeding. Carried back to New York, he lingered 30 hours, reconciled with God, forgiving his killer. Died July 12, 1804, at 49. Alexander Hamilton was no saint. Arrogant, impulsive, driven by demons of illegitimacy and ambition. He loved power, distrusted the mob, believed in strong government. Yet he bled for liberty at 20, built a nation at 30, and died defending his honor. From bastard clerk to architect of America's economy, his mind shaped the republic more than any canon or charge. The orphan who rose to forge a superpower, brilliant, flawed, immortal,